Hi everyone, my name is Ryan Lucchesi, and today we're going to be discussing the deep web and dark nets. We're going to be discussing everything ranging from the boring and the mundane all the way to the interesting and the exciting. So let's start with the boring. What is the deep web? The deep web is any website that is not indexed. Google is the largest indexer of all websites out there. But Yahoo, Bing, all other search engines, they also index websites as well. So how is a website indexed? Well, Google uses what's called robots or spiders that go out, crawl the internet, locate websites, report back, and that allows you to search Google and come back with these search results. But a site would not be indexed, say, if it requires a login. So trying to get into your bank account would be considered deep web because you log in, you get to your personal bank account page, and that's not something you can Google search. I couldn't Google search Ryan Lucchesi's bank account. Nothing would come up. Another thing you can do is if you're building a website, you can use what is called a robots.txt file. What that does is when those spider bots go out to start indexing websites, this robots.txt file kindly tells Google or whatever search engine is indexing to kindly not report this website. So what does this mean? Just because a site does not want to be indexed does not necessarily mean that something shady or illegal is going on. It could just be that they want to keep something private. So if you've got like a family website and you only want your friends to log on and see photos, special photos of family vacation, and you don't want this website showing up in Google, you can use this robots.txt file to tell Google, please don't report this website. It's only for specific use of myself and anybody I give this website information to. So what about darknets? Well, people tend to use the term darknet and deep web synonymously, but that is actually incorrect. Darknets are considered deep web because they are not indexed, but they also operate within their own special network access. A couple of examples of these are I2P, Freenet, and Tor. These networks are only accessible within themselves. So if I download and install the Tor browser, I can log in, access Tor sites if I know the URL, but I would not be able to use Tor to then access a private site on Freenet. I would need to install the Freenet software to be able to access those sites. So this is the initial setup of what the deep web and darknets are. Now we're going to talk about some of the more interesting information that you may have shown up to hear about. Some of the illegal goings on and shady underground dealings of the darknet and deep webs. So for that, I have a special interview. Stay tuned. Okay. Hello, Cadre 26, and welcome to this very special interview. Before I get started, I'd like to state my thanks to Holly Magnuson and Dante, who took the time to get this interview set up, and to Sean Corman for taking time out of his very busy schedule to join me today. So before we get started, Sean, why don't you explain to the audience what it is you do here at APU?
Sure. So my name is Sean Corman. I'm the security architect here at Azusa Pacific University. Some of my tasks include hacking our internal infrastructure, playing the bad guy, so to speak. But really my job is protecting the university and its resources, mainly our students, our faculty, and our staff, and their identities and your financial information.
Very cool. So today we're going to be talking darknets, we're going to be talking the deep web, and I thought Sean's going to be the man to know about this. So Sean, I'm going to be asking you a couple of questions.
Sure.
So that we can maybe better educate our audience about what actually goes on the unknown parts of the internet. Mm-hmm. So my first question for you, Sean, is have you ever used darknet services like Tor, and what was your experience and your thoughts?
I actually still frequently use things like Tor and other services. in order for me to do my job effectively, I have to be able to act like a bad guy. So I use the same services as they would.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, is it legal to use services like Tor and go onto the deep web? And
To use Tor is legal, yes. And to
Okay.
use Freenet, I2P, and the others out there. There's nothing illegal about using anonymizers.
okay.
But you do have to be aware of the context that you're in. So,
All right.
what does company policy state? Or if you
Right.
work for a government agency, what are the rules and regulations around use within your organization? So, if you're doing it at home, generally you're fine. But
Okay.
you do need to be aware of the policies around whatever service that you're using.
Okay. So I could go home tonight, install Tor, and not have to
You'd
worry
be
about
fine.
the government coming knocking at my door.
No, you'd be fine.
All right.
Now, the FBI might have undue interest in you, but
But otherwise, I haven't broken any laws.
no, you have
Okay.
not.
All right. So I think when we're talking to the general public and we bring up the idea of the deep web and darknets in this particular subject, the first thing that comes to mind is the Silk Road. So, in case some members of our audience don't know what the Silk Road was, can you maybe fill us in a little bit about what that ordeal was?
Sure. If you drive down the street in a local neighborhood, you'll find a flea market or some big open bazaar type selling area.
Okay.
Well, Silk Road was that, except it was for illegal goods and services.
Okay.
Well, generally illegal. But services like illegal drugs, various and sundry activities that we'll just not describe.
Okay.
But up to and including murder for hire. So there are all kinds of illegal services available there.
Okay.
Think of it this way: for any type of good or service out there, legal or illegal, there's a marketplace.
Sure.
Silk Road served that purpose.
Okay. All right. So, law enforcement expended a lot of energy to bring down the Silk Road. We're talking years of FBI honeypotting, contacts, informants. And I guess at the surface of it, you could say it was a good thing. They were a black marketplace, providing illegal goods and services, like you said. But when they brought down the Silk Road, did it really accomplish anything? Because you bring down the Silk Road and 50 other places doing the same thing just sort of popped up and took its place.
And that's exactly right. When you take down a large organization like Silk Road, that revenue and that marketplace doesn't just go away. It just changes shape. Like anything else, you're not going to kill that market just
Right.
because you killed the marketplace.
Sure.
They'll rebuild somewhere else, and they have. There have been a variety of other smaller marketplaces. It's more fragmented now than it was, but they're out there.
Okay. So there isn't just one chief player in town. Now everybody's got a piece of the pie.
Well, there are a few major players and a lot of minor players now.
Okay. Okay.
But there isn't anything as organized as Silk Road was.
So was it a good thing then that law enforcement brought them down, or would you say it was like a waste of time?
That's really a matter of opinion, and it's hard to say because there's arguments on both sides of that.
Okay.
On one hand, you could argue that by having all of them in one place, law enforcement could monitor and go after the larger players
Okay.
and take down, some of these big suppliers.
Sure.
On the other hand, there's the side that says if you take down this huge marketplace, you make it inherently harder for them to operate because they're not well known anymore.
Okay.
Which one's right? Who's to say? There's probably truth in both.
So they saw someone breaking the law and they did their job. They tried to bring that person down.
Well, and they were actually asked to take that down by a congressman.
Yes, that's right. Okay. All right, so that's good to know. So then, when we talk about the deep web and services like Tor, you've got the untraceable marketplace, but money's traceable. So now we've got Bitcoin.
Yep.
And there are other cryptocurrencies out there, but Bitcoin's the major player. Can you talk a little bit about how Bitcoin works, and what it did for the Silk Road? And actually, maybe would you say that Silk Road is what made Bitcoin what it is today?
No.
Okay.
No, it's funny because you see that those comparisons made a lot where they're equating one to the other. Bitcoin is, as you mentioned, a cryptocurrency. It's basically an online currency that has no affiliation with any nation state in the world. So as such, it's been around since what, 2009, I believe.
Yes, 2009.
And it's taken off, and it's still growing. Now it's had ups and downs. It's had a lot of fluctuation in its valuation. But at the end of the day, it is still possible to use Bitcoin to pay for services with complete anonymity. And that's one of the benefits of it. Or if you're on, depending on which side of the fence you're on.
Okay.
Because from a law enforcement perspective, tracking the money has been one of the single most effective tactics ever.
Sure.
You want to know who's doing what? Follow the money.
Right.
Well, with Bitcoin, you can't. Because by design, it enabled the ability to have completely anonymous transactions.
Sure.
Right? So, is that good or bad? That's really up to the person to decide. I mean, anything that can be used for a good purpose can be used for an evil purpose.
Sure.
So, in and of itself, Bitcoin is just a tool. That's all it is. It's a currency. It has no inherent evil. It has no inherent good.
Makes sense. So then, your personal thoughts on Bitcoin? Do you think its emergence is the way of the future, or do you think?
I think personally, I like it. I like the idea of a cryptocurrency out there. I like the idea of a currency that has no borders.
Okay.
It equalizes a lot of things. Because if you look at the variations in different currencies across the world, it's impossible to track that stuff.
Sure.
If you're a layman. Now, if you're a stockbroker or a banker, I'm sure they're far more efficient and effective at dealing with that than I'm not. But if I'm dealing with somebody in another country and I want something that has value equally, and just it's simple, it's easy, it's good, it works.
So you said valuable. I guess one of the interesting things about Bitcoin in this regard is that it has no backing. Like it's not using a gold standard. It's just there.
Yep, it has value because people have assigned it value.
So, what about other cryptocurrencies trying to make their way into the game? I know, like, there's Blackcoin, Litecoin.
And none of them have seen the adoption of Bitcoin.
And do you think they ever will?
It's hard to say. I imagine they will eventually.
Okay.
When you really think about it, we're in the infancy of cryptocurrency and that whole marketplace. And as you can tell from the legislative action going on around it, I mean, there's no consistency there in how we're even approaching it. I mean, we've got a variety of antitrust laws, and this is going on. Mt. Gox was taken down.
Right.
So there's no consistency yet worldwide about how do we treat a currency like this that isn't bound to a country.
Okay.
And that doesn't have a physical backing like that.
Right. So
how do you work with that?
Some people seem to have found a way. They're buying and selling things on the internet. So.
Well, not only that, and there's ways to cash out your bitcoins. I mean, you can sell it for real currency, regardless of what country you're in.
Right.
There are brokers who do that.
You just get a Bitcoin wallet and you're ready to go.
But it's completely unrestricted.
So.
And unregulated. And so, to venture slightly into the political realm, the fact that it's unregulated makes people nervous.
Right, and that's one of the. That's why I wanted to get your thoughts, because when you're buying and selling illegal goods on the internet, you've now lost a way to track people on the internet because you're using Tor services. You've now lost a way to trace the money because the Bitcoin's untraceable.
Right.
So you're pretty much free to go on there, almost virtually purchase whatever you want.
Well, and I think you hit on a key word there. You're free.
So, which I know I know that's huge. We talk about that a lot. Everybody to bring back your privacy, but it's kind of scary when you think about it because
it is. It is. So the general idea. I mean, think about it. If you even go back to our founding fathers, there was a firm acknowledgement that freedom comes with greater responsibility and accountability at an individual level. Well, the same is true here. When you go out and use these anonymizing services, when you use Bitcoin, you're entering into a truly free marketplace for good and evil.
Right.
And everything in the middle. So, you risk accordingly. It's not regulated. There's no, Federal Bureau of Investigation or any other agency that's out there going to watch over things. It's a free market with everything that implies.
Right.
There is no safety net.
Right.
So when you go out into those areas, you have risk.
Sure. And actually, that brings me to an interesting question. And I'm sorry, this one's going to be a surprise question I'm going to pop on you, but
Okay.
I'm going to ask it anyway. If I go onto eBay, I bid on an item. I know I have eBay's support that I'm going to use PayPal or send in my money order to the customer. It's once everything checks out, they can send me the item. And for the most part, eBay is very reliable in that regard. Of course, you're always going to get the one person who
Right.
sends you the wrong item. But now, translating that to the Silk Road, it's debatable whether or not there's honor among thieves. But, but expanding that and saying, is there honor just among criminals? And I think that was one of the surprising aspects of the Silk Road was that you're now free of law, yet it still managed to self-regulate.
Yes.
So can you speak to that a little bit?
It's reputation based. It's word of mouth. So if you as a seller on Silk Road, regardless of what you're selling, have a great reputation for always delivering a high quality product when you said you would, or within whatever the parameters were, you do what you said you're going to do, and you give your buyers the value they're looking for. Everything's reputation based.
Okay. So if Ryan123 has a profile on Silk Road, somebody purchases a large item, he takes their money and runs. He made one big score, but the guy who's always delivering is now set for life because people are going to keep returning to him to keep
Pretty
playing.
much.
Okay.
Pretty much.
All right.
And it's the same in the free marketplace.
Sure.
If you have a mom and pop organization in your town, and they've got a great reputation, where are you going to go?
You're going to go there.
Right.
But in that marketplace, you know that if I did something to try and swindle you, you can call the cops.
Right.
But you can't call 911 and say
there is no better business bureau for what we're talking about.
Right, because you can't call 911 and say my marijuana wasn't delivered.
Yeah, that would tend to be problematic.
Okay.
Even if you're in Colorado, I think that would be a problem.
Yeah, I'm sure there would be. Okay, so now I want to talk about sort of what the media has done to influence this realm of the internet. So I'm sure you watch TV. There was 2 shows that brought this up recently. One was Arrow. I'm not sure if you ever watch Arrow on CW. Okay. Another one was Scandal.
Heard of it, but haven't watched it.
So I'm going to give you some setup on what happened here. A recent episode of Arrow, they go up against a criminal. Team Arrow goes in to bust him, and all of a sudden, a bunch of guys with ski masks just jump out with automatic machine guns. And he says, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, I hired my own private army. It's amazing what you can find on the deep web. And then in Scandal, Olivia gets kidnapped. Due to her position, she's very close to the president, she has secrets, she gets kidnapped, and they start auctioning her off to extremist and terrorist nations
Right.
who will want to purchase her for the knowledge that she has about the United States. And they hold this auction on the darknet. Is this the media trying to play it up to make it sound more exciting? Is that completely false, or is the truth somewhere in between?
The truth's somewhere in between. I mean, the media always has the ability to exercise creative license, especially when we're talking about TV shows like these.
Sure.
So the truth lies somewhere in the middle. Is it possible to hire mercenaries, etc. online? Yes, it is. You just have to know where to look.
Okay.
As far as selling someone off to extremist groups, you're talking about human trading or even slavery. That is a real thing, and it is enabled by the internet.
Okay.
I mean, those human trafficking exists. It's a real deal.
Right.
We know this,
Right.
and it's enabled somehow.
Sure.
Right? So those marketplaces exist. So is the spin on it a bit dramatic? Of course.
Okay.
The media, I mean, that's how they're, I mean, for a TV show, that's how they're making their money.
Right.
I mean, they're going to sensationalize things a bit. Is it that glamorous or interesting in real life? No, it's not.
Okay. So for everybody out there who's really scared um, and really freaked out by what Tor does or I2P or FreeNAND, if you install these programs, what are you probably going to see then when you launch the browser for the first
Well,
time?
there's not really like there's a search engine out there for
Right.
for all the nasty sites. You kind of have to get to know where to go and what to look for, and be able to follow your way around it.
Right.
So
okay.
if you just dive in and use it, I mean, now remember, you can use Tor for a variety of totally legitimate services,
Sure.
but you can also use it for less than honorable stuff.
Okay.
Generally speaking, the underground side, you have to kind of know where to go and know where to look.
Okay.
And it's not like, Google, they're not out there advertising.
Right. That makes sense.
Because let's face it, there are a number of law enforcement organizations around the world that would love to know where they are.
Sure. But so just average user, I'm not going to install Tor and all of a sudden Hitman's going to show up at my house because I accidentally did something
No.
stupid. Okay. Okay. So the fears are maybe more promoted by what the media says a little bit, but it's not. But it's not all false. You can find that stuff if you really
That
know
stuff
where to go.
can be found.
Okay.
But again, you have to know where to look.
You have to know where to look. Okay. So then, my next question for you is, you just said it yourself. There's a lot of positive uses for it. What are some of the positive uses for it? And have you used any of those?
So think about it from say you live in a country that has a repressive regime.
Okay.
You're in an ethnic group or of a gender that is repressed. How do you get the word out to the world?
Okay.
Because there are a number of countries that monitor all internet traffic
Sure.
at
Okay.
a nation state level. Think of the Great Firewall of China.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, there's a set of technology that monitors all incoming and outgoing traffic from a country, actually several countries. How do you get around that? How do you get the word out about human rights violations, about all these other things that go on? How do you do that?
How do you do that? Okay.
Right? Because we know that social media, for instance, look at what Twitter did for Egypt
Right.
and how it enabled change. Was it a positive experience? Was it good? Debatable.
Okay.
But something happened as a result of people getting together.
Sure. Okay.
And they had a tool that enabled them to do that.
Okay. So there is good uses for it. So that's
Right.
so okay.
I mean, another example of that too is Snowden.
Right. Snowden. We actually just discussed that recently.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of how you feel about what he did, the fact of the matter is he's a whistleblower.
Sure. And Tor would protect you from that.
And he used anonymizers of a variety of forms to help protect himself while he was putting the word out.
Sure. So one of the positive uses was Snowden. I know and he was a whistleblower. Another site I guess you could also think of is WikiLeaks.
WikiLeaks is another example, sure. And for a while there was a service called Tor Mail, and
Okay.
one of the major newspapers had a mailbox there where people could anonymously submit bits of news.
The New Yorker. Okay, so it's not all guns and drug dealers.
No, not at all. No. I mean, and think about it. I hate to keep beating this drum, but I will. Everything that has a good purpose can be used for an evil purpose as well. So the media has a tendency to paint, these services as purely negative and purely evil, but they're not that. They're just tools.
Right.
What matters is how they're used and by whom they're used.
So it's just how it's employed, and sometimes it's the negative stuff that's more interesting to the general public, so they want to.
Everybody wants to watch a train wreck.
Right. Everybody wants to watch a train wreck. Okay, so there you have it, Cadre 26. The Tor, the deep web, darknets. It's not all scary. There are positive uses to it. I'd like to thank Sean once again for taking time out of his busy
Absolutely.
schedule. And I'd like to say one more shout out to Holly Magnuson and Dante Cordova for taking the time to set up this great interview. Catch you guys later.